S.O.A.P.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the S.O.A.P. My name is Delphine and today I'm joined by Cav.
Hello.
And Arthur.
Hello.
Hi guys, today we are going to talk about World of Warcraft Classic. World of Warcraft Classic has just been released and we have done some episodes in the past about World of Warcraft, but can you tell us a little bit more, Cav, about what is the Classic edition of World of Warcraft?
Yeah, certainly. World of Warcraft Classic is a server option on the MMORPG game, World of Warcraft. It runs alongside the main version of the game, which is nowadays referred to as retail. So Classic recreates the game in the state in terms of the combat mechanics, original character models, and skills trees. I think it was just before the release of the first expansion. So the game version, I think, that has come out is patch 1.12.1. So it basically recreates that state of the game as it was back then, which was in September 2006. So the maximum level of the characters is level 60. All the expansions, content and everything else is been removed. So it's basically the original game as it was back then before all the expansions were added on. Now, the reason that I think Blizzard opted to recreate this Classic environment was, I suppose, due to fan demand and also
demand.
Demand.
Do it or we'll shoot you. Is the kind of demand.
Yeah, it was quite like that, and I think it was there's quite a lot of private servers running around the world. People were running their own private servers, and Blizzard were not happy about it. So they issued their cease and desist letters to everybody, and the WoW community went in an uproar basically. And
well, they kind of stopped doing that for a while, didn't they?
Yes,
they did initially because they were really pissed off at essentially people taking their code. But
correct.
I think they kind of realized they were fighting a losing battle and looked like jerks anyway.
Also correct, and the people were definitely not happy, and there was this groundswell, if you will, of public opinion of what it would be like to go back to the way things used to be, and then eventually Blizzard basically had to cave in. They were dragged into it, kicking and screaming. But we'll talk about it. But I think they're reaping the rewards of it now, anyway.
Okay. So, can you talk to us about some of the differences between the retail version and the classic version? I myself have played World of Warcraft back when it was the first version before BC, before Lich King. So 2006 is probably the year that I played the game the most. How has it changed in the latest releases, and how does it feel now, when you look at classic? Are there obviously a whole lot of differences?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, World of Warcraft nowadays is a different animal, really. There's a lot more, I suppose, a lot more classes in there, a lot more races. There've been a number of expansions. How many expansions? 8 now, I think.
Something like that.
There's quite a lot of expansions since the original came out, and so it's quite different. And there's a lot of in the retail version. There's a lot of I suppose what's the word I'm thinking of? It's easy basically.
Okay.
It's almost hand-holding in terms of the leveling process.
Well, to some extent, like I wouldn't go so far as to say it's easy. It's just that it is designed for a more modern audience.
Yeah, I suppose so. I mean, when we some of us. I mean, I've been playing World of Warcraft since January 2005. That's when I first picked it up, and I've been playing it since, on and off, of course. But since I've generally always played it. So just to see the evolution of the game from when it started and to what it is now, it's quite different. And so the combat mechanics are completely different, and obviously people over time have left the game, mostly because life moves on. You can't keep playing the game forever and ever.
Yeah.
And people also have been dissatisfied with the direction World of Warcraft has taken, and so bringing it back, I suppose, with the original one also brings back that sense of the old, which people loved, and so it brings a different audience back to the game and to the environment, which I think is a good thing, obviously. Now, obviously, there's a lot of changes, and as you play the game, obviously we'll talk about it, but as you're playing the game, you notice how different it is. Now, the retail version obviously is a lot bigger nowadays. It requires more graphical capabilities. The models have changed. The character models and all that stuff has changed immensely. So bringing it back to what it was originally, with the old character models and the old gameplay mechanics and everything else, is quite a challenge almost. It's actually
is it a shock?
It is. I mean, some of those good things in the new World of Warcraft, which make the gaming a lot easier, and those things are not in there anymore. And you have to go back to what it used to be like, which in some senses is good, but in some senses it's also bad. But
nostalgia hits old nerds hard, and that seems to be the selling point.
Yes, it does. It does.
Yeah, and I imagine that it really does, because I loved the game, way back then. And as it became bigger and bigger, for me, the time investment that was required to, keep being at the level that you wanted to be, to do some of the raids and so on, as the expansions kept coming, was just too much. But certainly, I still have amazing memories of the game back then. Now, you're talking about some of perhaps the graphics and so on. Does this mean that this version you can run on a computer that is not amazing? Because these days everybody has a computer that can handle most games, but way back then, again, you needed a little bit of a beast to be able to play World of Warcraft without lowering all the detail. How intensive is it for your machine?
Not actually at all, because they released I think minimal specs, and it was like it was like a fairly mid-range computer from 2004 could run it.
Okay.
So it was fine. I think it was like Core Duo, which is like I mean, that's a name of a CPU I don't think anyone's even thought of for the last decade and a half. So it fits the theme well. I mean, people built specifically rigs to play it like old school. Like people connected CRT monitors and shit
to
my God. Old school machines to actually get the feel.
That has to be the definite nostalgia feeling that you're talking about. Like that's almost a little bit too much, isn't it?
No, that's too much.
Yeah, like get the proper old specs, get the 4x3, like...
No.
I mean, if you can have it, better, I don't see why. But, I think with certain gamers, you cannot ask why. So with the game, does that mean that it goes back to, I mean, there were many new races that were introduced. I think when I left was when they introduced pandas. Yeah. And I was like, this is it. I'm out.
No, you're one of those people.
So I never played the pandas. And I love pandas.
That was the best expansion. Don't even...
Did they remove these ones? Like, are there classes you can't play anymore, races you can't play anymore in that particular version?
It's all gone, yeah. It's all just Molten Core. Molten Core is the current raid, right? That's live technically in Classic now, right?
Yeah, Molten Core is live at the moment. And then I think Onyxia is also live currently at the moment. Yeah.
So even
So
that sounds familiar to me, whereas you would tell me the ones that are in the last few years. I'd have no idea.
yeah. So at the moment, those are just the raids that are currently up and running. And Blizzard has got a timeline as to when they plan to introduce all the other raids that came in, or the regional expansions. Sorry, the original game. So they've got a schedule which I will find in a second.
When's the Gates of Encourage? That's what I want to know.
Yes, that's a good point, actually. Give me a second. Let me work it out. I hope you can edit.
See, I never played Classic. I started right at the tail end of Classic when it was like a month before BC.
BC, yeah.
Yeah. So I had nothing relevant to remember as such. But I basically played it continuously until... When did I first unsub? I think right before the last patch of Cataclysm was the first time I actually unsubbed, and not for very long.
Yeah. Well, see, yeah. See, the way they've done it is they're not going to release it as it was originally, but they've got the different phases they're going to do. All up there, I think there's 6 phases they're planning. The first phase, of course, is the one which is the current one, which Modern Core Onyxia is up and running. PvP, of course, and Moradun, which was I believe that's it's a dungeon. It's just a big dungeon. That's yeah. Phase 2, all the release dates haven't been announced yet, but Phase 2 is the Dungeon Diamond. They've got the world bosses, the dragon world bosses coming up. They're changing the PvP, introducing the honor system and other stuff as well, and the PvP ranking rewards and all that stuff. And
Warlords!
Yeah. And then...
It's back! The grind is back!
Oh, yeah. And then Phase 3, Black Ring Lair, Dark Moon Fair, and more PvP, introducing Outer Valley and Warsong Gulch. So, good times with AV.
So get ready for 40-hour...
Yeah,
Alterac Valley.
40 hours of AV. Good lord.
It's the old Alterac Valley as well,
Yes.
which means it's the non-updated that favors a certain side Alterac Valley.
Yes, it is the original.
Sweet.
So Phase 4, obviously, ZG, which is Zul'Gurub, which is also going to be there. The Green Dragons and Arati Basin being introduced for the PvP. And Phase 5 is when the Gates of Anchorage will open.
Okay.
And so that will be good for you, Arthur, obviously. I hope you come back for that one. And then...
Well, I'm gonna probably... This is just making me want to sub. Like, this is all this is gonna be. It's just like, oh, yeah, all these things that I remember.
Yeah.
That my nostalgic nerd brain wants
even
back.
for me. So, Cav, you have been playing it, unlike us. So, what's the experience like? What are your thoughts? Is it worth it? Like, sell it to us. Should we actually come back?
You know what? Okay, I'll give you the long version of it. But
give us like it is. That's okay.
Okay, the short version is yes, definitely come back. That's the short version. The long version is my experience with it and how I got into it. So for me, obviously, I'm always playing it. It's always something that keeps me entertained. So what I did was when it came out, I not pre-ordered. You were able to choose to jump on a server, create your character, reserve your name and all that stuff, which I did, of course, early. And funny thing is that I'm not even playing on that server, which I decided on anyway. But that's another story. And then what happened is that on the first day I jumped in there. The queues were ridiculous. Yeah. Ridiculously long on pretty much all the servers that were up and running at that point. They were just too much, and then Blizzard decided to introduce more servers as
yeah, it sounds like the proper classic WoW experience.
Exactly. It was definitely the proper. It was definitely the proper experience. So it was good times. You jumped on there and you could barely move, and And the first thing you notice is the fact that, because at the moment in retail, if you're playing on a well, there's no longer a PvP server, non-PvP server these days. You
Okay.
can just turn on war mode on, and then you're basically tagged as PvP, or turn it off, and then you're just in a normal world. So one of the things is that if you're in a normal world, if somebody tags a mob, as long as they're part of your faction, you can still kill it, and you still get your XP from them. You get whatever, you can pick up the loot, whatever from them.
Yeah.
But of course, the original one, you suddenly realize that's not how it used to be. Each mob you tag is personalized to you. Other people in your faction cannot tag it. And only you can loot it. Only you can get the experience from them.
Yes.
So when you started as a human mage, so as soon as you get in there, Northshire Abbey there, you're killing wolves, you're killing kobolds, and then there's hundreds of people trying to kill the same mob.
Yeah, so and you have to wait until they.
You have to wait that,
and
or you can just start grouping up with people.
Okay.
And this is one of the great things I missed about the original WoW, the sense of community. You suddenly realize, okay, I can't do this myself. Otherwise, I'll be waiting forever trying to even tag one mob. And of course, people suddenly start grouping up, start actually talking to each other, which is something that doesn't happen often in retail these days. So that sense of community starts up, people looking for guilds, things forming up again, and it's just like, old vanilla WoW again.
Yeah.
And then when you move from there, the experience is just, that nostalgia hits you, and it's so good. I loved it. And then, but I started playing that, and I thought, okay, this is ridiculous. The queues are long, and things are taking forever to kill. So I said, I'll leave it alone. I'll come back the next day, which I did. The next day I came back. That whole sense of nostalgia was back again, of course, but lesser people, because people had started spreading out throughout the world and doing their own things. So it was a lot better. The queues were still there, but the experience in game was much, much better once you got in.
Yeah.
How are the queues now?
The queues are good on most of the servers, but there's some servers which have still got high population, and Blizzard have now introduced free server transfers in those.
Yeah. Because I noticed I just upped. Well, I didn't actually resub, but I logged in just to see what the servers are in the population realms, and it's high.
Yeah.
And then there's a few that are normal, a few medium,
correct.
A few lows.
There's a few lows, a few mediums, a few highs, and then every now and then you see the full ones. Like us being in the Oceanic version, I think there's 4 servers in Oceanic.
Most of them are PvP, I noticed.
Yes.
There's only one that isn't.
One isn't PvP, the other 3 are PvP.
Yep.
So only the other 2 PvP are medium at the moment, medium to full. The non-PvP one is medium to high. There's one full PvP one, which they have offered the character transfers from. So most of them are PvP, and this is some of my friends were saying, we shouldn't do it on PvP, but when we play retail, we play with war mode on anyway, so we are always in a PvP setting. So we said, well, we'll go PvP, of course. That has its own problems, of course, but that's another story. But
I'm a cuddly, fuzzy bear, and I just wanted to go jump straight onto the normal server.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. And I created my characters on the normal server, but as I said, my friends, once we decided we're going to go to the PvP, and that's where we've gone, and so far so good.
Now, so you talk about some of the issues in PvP. What are you referring to?
Okay, so I hit level 20 a couple days ago. I was level 20. And I went to Red Ridge Mountain, Lakeshire there. So I'm killing, what were they? I can't remember, not kobolds, whatever they were. I was just doing my own thing, questing my own, and suddenly from behind, a rogue just comes and ganks me.
If that is not the good old days, I mean, come on. And these guys that stare that as soon as you res, just kill you again? I
Yes.
mean,
So
gosh, they are still jerks then. I mean,
I
that is definitely
I
old
had
feeling.
I had to applaud him because that was exactly the experience I had.
I'm waiting for you to get to Stranglethorn Vale for it to get really
Yes,
bad.
Yes.
that's where I'll be heading soon because I'm finishing up Lakeshire hopefully today, tomorrow. I think there's still a few quests we're doing through that, and then we'll move over to Darkshire, and then once we move from Darkshire into it's right into STV, and that's where it's going to be really really
That's where the
fun.
pain will be.
Yes.
That's a small zone where everyone's cramped and doing the same quests.
Is-
Because you're all doing Nesingware quests.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
but the
smoshed
people
them
doing
together.
the same quest that are around the same level is okay, but there's always that jerk that is high level that comes there to kill people that obviously cannot defend themselves.
Correct, and
Has
that's
anyone hit 60 yet?
Why? Well, there might
yes,
be some
quite
people that are
quite a
already
number.
60s.
Yeah,
So
quite a number of people have already hit 60.
Yeah.
And there was because World of Warcraft is actually doing very well on Twitch, especially when Classic started up. A lot of these Twitch streamers have actually taken on. Well, quite a lot of them have are doing the Classic streaming, and that's doing extremely well. It was number one for the. It's been number one on Twitch for the last couple of weeks, basically. Doing a lot better than all the newer games that are currently out there, which is surprising. And this is why I was saying that Blizzard is reaping the rewards from that. Because, I mean, for you to come back, you have to subscribe to retail. You got
that's
to pay
right.
your $15. And if you haven't played Warcraft for a long time, you have to buy the current expansion, which is Battle for Azeroth. And I know they've reduced the price of it to encourage people to jump on there, but you still have to
Yeah.
pay. You have to pay that. And
I
then
like how you have that slight tinge of sadness in your voice.
Yeah, I know.
You just have to like buy Battle for Azeroth.
yeah, this is the thing, because like for me, as I said, I've been playing it, and then my daughter said, "Oh, can I? I'd like to get back into playing Warcraft." And I said, "Yes, you can, but you can't keep using my account." So I had to reactivate one of my old accounts. So I had two accounts when back in the day. So I had to reactivate.
Is she playing Classic?
Well, yes, she is. So, so she had to resub on that one, but then I realized, oh, bugger, I have to buy another
You did
version
have
of.
old. Oh gosh.
So I had to buy another version of BFA and then resub for another month, and she's playing that one, and my son is playing that one as well.
That's kind of amazing. Because remember when we did the other recording episode, we talked about how your daughter used to play it and stopped
Yes.
at around the expected time that most people stopped. Let's put it that way.
Well, look, one of my friends from the place I used to work with, Jeffrey. He completely swore off Warcraft many years ago. Says he'll never play Warcraft again, and he is playing Classic more than I am. He is constantly on it, day in, day out. I log in every day. He's there, whether it's day or night. He is there constantly. But this is a weird thing that happened to me when I jumped in there. By day 2 or 3, one of the things that happened was just weird. I thought, oh, well, my friends were not on. I thought, oh, I'm bored of this. The leveling is a grind. It takes forever. You realize how slow it is to level. And I thought, oh, this is so slow. I know what I'll do. I'll go back to retail. And actually, for like 2 or 3 days, that's all I played, retail. And I leveled my hunter from level 110 to 120. I did that within a day or two. I leveled that one. 10 levels I did, 10 high levels. I did that within a couple of days. And then I thought, wait a minute, how easy is? Well, I'll say easy because I've been playing this game forever. I got 8 level 120s now on retail. But I said, how easy is it? And then that again just spurred me on to play more of Classic. And I went.
Well, I think that's what they're banking on.
Yes.
That's kind of their whole, I think, like operational model for justifying like Classic's existence.
Yes.
It's pretty much going, well, feed back into the main retail game.
That people get frustrated with one or the other and switch around but stay on.
Yes.
Because what is appreciated in one version is probably the opposite of, you know, what you despise in the other version.
Correct.
And what you come and go, okay, this is too hard, the leveling is annoying, then you go back to the other one and go, actually, this is kind of not enough of a grind, and then go back.
Yeah.
Plus, you'd think that beyond the servers and the adverts and so on, I mean, that code that exists. So it has, I mean, they are not remastering it or anything, are they? So is it basically, you know, that could potentially be a low investment for them to just make it available again?
It's not as low as you think, because from
You
a
reckon?
technical point of view, well, they've said as much, because when the whole shebang started with people clamoring for Classic, one of the things Blizzard said is that the game engine has changed so much, they actually didn't even know whether they had the code to be able to create Classic
Correct.
in the way that it existed in the past.
Okay.
The fact that they pulled it off, given what they said,
Yes.
if what they said was accurate, is pretty much a pretty nifty engineering feat
Okay.
in some sense.
Yeah, because there's one of two versions you can think. It was that they were being truthful, and that it was a bit of a bit of work to get it back to what it used to be, or what they wanted to look like, basically. Or they were just saying, look, we really don't want to do it, so we'll tell them it's hard, and if they're not satisfied,
No, I actually
Do you think
believe
it really
them,
is?
because
Yeah.
yeah, no, I totally agree. As I said,
I'll even justify it in a way that's a bit weird.
Yeah.
It's not because I think, like, oh, Blizzard such great engineers, or aren't so great engineers. It's literally because like, people have talked about this before. This is in a wider context of gaming, and it's actually a topic I want to breach in an actual episode, which is that in games, particularly in the digital media space, there is no attempt made at preserving, like, historical data.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, games that kind of become shovelware, people stop caring and they just go the way of the dodo permanently. And there's no attempt made at archiving and preserving it. That's kind of sad.
That's
It's
true.
a general
Yeah.
indictment
And it
of
is
gaming
sad.
as a business, but different topic. But that's why I'm kind of believing them when they say that they literally just, like, forgot or, like, shoved the code in a drawer somewhere
fair enough.
and just couldn't actually engineer it back to exactly how it was.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a problem wide scale among gaming companies in the gaming space in general. People just don't care, and they don't preserve this stuff. So it's entirely believable they're just like, oh, we need all this code now from, like, yonks ago. Where the fuck
Yeah.
did we put it? Oh, it's in, like...
And if they've just built on it, and as you said, never actually looked at, you know, never thinking that someone would want to go back, they may have, you know, just upgraded on the code, and then by then they have to completely unbuild it. And yeah, I can only imagine, like, you know, back in the day, like, there would be times where there would be too many people and that drops and that's slow and so on, whereas the number of people now on it and how many servers, everything
Yeah.
that they have built in
Yeah.
it has just expanded so much.
And the
that-
company has completely changed. Like, it's a totally different company from when WoW
first
was starting out.
I agree.
To what Blizzard is now, given that this was prior to, like, their merger with Activision.
With Activision, correct.
This was prior to their, like, huge profits that they got around like the peak of WoW and all their other, like, media that they were pulling out. This is, like, you know, it doesn't, looking at it now, it doesn't seem like as long ago as it is, but you got to remember 2004, which was when WoW Classic came out.
Yeah.
The original. This is obviously not the actual on-day version. Was, like, prior to YouTube. Like,
That's right.
it's a chunk of history in some sense, so it's not surprising that it was difficult. And the thing is, they probably had to justify it internally from, like, a monetary point of view, because, like, there's obviously this general trend of trying to bring back all this nostalgia where people are realizing that there's actual value in it. I hope that that's the thing that actually happens as a result, is that people go back to these old school stuff and go, hang on, there's a reason why these things were loved as much, and maybe it's worth preserving and not just throwing it in the bin, or, like, we accidentally left the source code in Bill's underpants. You know, it's
well, this is the thing though with Blizzard at the moment. They seem to be rejigging a lot of their old content. I mean, StarCraft. What else has they got coming up?
Warcraft is Warcraft 3.
Warcraft 3 is
yeah.
coming out soon.
I reckon Diablo 2 will be.
Yeah, Diablo. I
Probably
mean,
coming.
what, we're getting a mobile game instead? I mean, come on. But to be fair, though, the Diablo updates keep coming. The seasons keep coming. They have now introduced a new
I'll be surprised.
difficulties.
Correct. I'll be surprised this year at BlizzCon if they don't announce Diablo 4. I'll be very surprised.
Look, they have to, because we've been waiting, and the last time when everybody was already hoping for at least a shred of information that they were working on it, and that they announced the mobile game. I mean, the backlash was just.
Well, that's it. Yeah, again, that's another rumor that's going on, that they were just about to announce it, but for some reason they pulled back from it. Don't know why.
No, I think they were just dumb and thought that game would be well received. Unfortunately, yeah. I don't think. I think they just misread the room, as many large companies do sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. And look, I mean, we have talked in the podcast over and over about mobile gaming and how big it is, and sometimes you don't value the games all that much, but actually that's a massive business. So I think they probably thought there are people out there that will want to do these types of games on mobile.
And that is true.
I mean, the real people that follow them at these events are probably not that audience.
Correct. And as you said,
that's what most people will say.
They definitely misread the audience. That wasn't the time for them to introduce it to the BlizzCon audience and tell them, look, we're doing a mobile game. No, that's the wrong time to do it.
It's okay, there'll be a StarCraft mobile game.
Yeah, they should have gone to Gamescom or something and then introduced it there or something, but not at BlizzCon.
There'll be a StarCraft mobile game announced the next BlizzCon. Like, you've been waiting for so many years. Well, it's not Diablo 4, it's StarCraft 2 on mobile.
Damn it. The worst thing about it is that as much as, I love Diablo 3 and I've not played it for a long while now, because I got what I wanted from the game when I played it like crazy for a few months. But obviously I want, D4, but when they announced the mobile game, a part of me was like, well, at least that's that, So I was one of these people that was like, I don't want to do that, but anyways.
I don't want to derail the entire thing, but if you want to play actual D4 as like it was supposed to be, go play Path of Exile.
I know.
That's
I've been wondering about it for a long time.
Somebody tried to get me onto that the other day. Path of Exile.
Yeah, like you can get it, like the game itself, you can play it for free, so that's really
it's free to
interesting.
play.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I will give.
Because they make most of their money from like. I mean, there's a few things that you really would ideally buy in the game, like extra stash tabs and shit, but like they make most of their moolah from people just buying cosmetic shit. But the game is brilliant. Like, if you want an action RPG that's like deep as fuck, Path of Exile is your thing. It's also like, I played it for a full 2 seasons. I was heavily addicted to it. And
that's why I'm worried to try.
Great.
Well, it has a bit of a steep learning curve initially, but once you sort of understand the basics, look at this skill tree, it'll blow your friggin' mind. But you'll quickly pick up the basics, particularly if you're familiar with like ARPG tropes.
Yeah,
it won't be that hard of a learning curve.
Mm-hmm.
But trust me, like, it's probably the best ARPG currently available. It's by a small New Zealand company, and they're very good. They keep it updated.
New Zealand. Oh, well, I better support them.
Yeah, we may have to get into it and do a podcast about it in a few months.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
I'm
we will either love you or hate you.
I'll get into that, and then we can talk about it. That'll be good. Now going back.
Yes.
Going back to the topic, I was just going to say that one of the great things, which, as I said, is missing from the Warcraft retail is that sense of community. Because nowadays on retail, you can go from level 1 to level 120 by yourself. You don't even have to talk to a single person. You can do all of that by yourself. I mean, you can jump into a dungeon. You can jump into a raid even, and don't even have to talk to a single person. So that sense of community was definitely getting lost out of Warcraft.
Yeah.
You don't have to join a guild. You don't have to do anything. You can do the game entirely by yourself.
And to a certain point, like, admittedly,
Well,
you still need to a guild if you want to progress in any of the properly hard content.
yeah, if you want to do the hard content, no, you can do it without a guild. You can, like, for example, at the moment, the current guild I'm with, unfortunately, our guild leader is currently sick. He's got cancer at the moment, so he's fighting that battle. So our guild is in a bit of a lull. We're not actually doing any of the end game content at the moment.
Yeah.
So, like, for me, I can just either just let it go and do my own thing, or I can just jump into the looking for group chat and there's lots and lots of guilds that are
I
running.
like how this is the selling point for looking for raid. Well, if your guild leader has cancer and is on death's
Exactly.
door,
So, as I said,
you have an option to play the game in solo mode.
you just go into looking for raid, look there, you will find lots of raids going. You just say, I'm a DPS, I'm a tank, I'm a healer. Just
Does it up to Mythic though? Can you play Mythic?
Oh yeah, you can do Mythic, you can do anything.
Really?
Anything. You can just say, yep.
I'm amazed.
You can just say, yep, I'm really, they'll look at you and say, yeah, you got gear, you got whatever, you're cool. You join in there. You don't have to be in a guild at all. That is terrible from an MMORPG. It's terrible. And so going back to that sense of community, as I said, a whole heap of us from my guild, some of my friends that I've gotten together with over the last few years, we've jumped onto a server here, one of the Oceanic servers. We haven't formed our own guild because we don't want to burden ourselves with running another guild there. But we have joined a guild. It's pretty big, lots of active people in there, and we are just having a ball. And you can just that sense of community is back because you can't do a lot of the hard content by yourself. You need to talk to somebody. There's no looking for group channels. There's not that whole easy way of finding a group without talking to people. You actually have to speak to somebody. You have to, have to advertise yourself. You have to shout out in the zone that is anybody wanting to do this, whatever, and people will get you in there.
Go back to the third party side.
Same to the good old days.
It is. It is like the good old days, and it is both.
And do you? Go for it.
No, I was just saying it was both frustrating and fantastic at the same time, which is beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
One of the things that, for me, I really loved in World of Warcraft, and as you say, eventually you find your groups and you find your guild, and, the guilds, people would help you to go to certain areas for you to gear up. And, me, I was a healing priest. So they needed me. So there were times where, we'd go to certain areas and dungeons, especially so that I would get a piece of gear and so on. But I also found that in the normal game content, you talked before about certain quests and grouping up with people. And, we used to do that quite a lot. You'd see a random who's obviously killing the same mobs that you are and go, hey, want to group up, so we can finish the quest faster and it's more fun. But then, by the time, okay, I've got all the items I need, what else are you doing? Can I help you? I felt like there was a real sense of playing the game because it was fun and it was great to help people. And over time, for me, that kind of died out with significantly younger people joining the community. And they didn't care about helping you and stuff. They were there for their own stuff. And that's pretty much the time that I started to not be interested in the game and eventually leave. Do you find that this, exists again in the classic version?
Well, at the moment, it's back to the old days whereby people are helping each other. Like today, for example, I was in Loch Modana because I'm an alchemist and herbalist. So I
Yeah.
thought, oh, I need to pick up some herbs. As I was just running around, this guy was fighting the was fighting some elite mobs there, and
Yeah.
he was struggling with it. He died. I saw him die a couple times, and I thought, oh well, normally you just say, oh, too bad, so sad. And I thought, oh, I'll see what quest he's on. I
Yeah.
said, oh, dude, you seem to be struggling a bit. He says, yeah, I'm trying to get this quest there. I looked at my quest log. I didn't have it. I said, oh, can you share it? Can
Share
you
it.
share the
Yeah.
quest? And sure enough, we grouped up. He shared it. I was able to get the quest, and together we went through that. We went through that. Probably he was struggling with it. He had to kill like 3 packs of 4 mobs, so 12 mobs he had to kill. Um, but he kept on dying, and then, as I
Yeah.
said,
By himself. It'd
but
be hard.
together we managed to knock it all out. And he thanked me for helping him out. He said, "Oh, do you have any other quest that I can help you out?" And yeah, sure enough, I had another quest which I could share with him, and we went and did that as well.
Yeah.
So
That's
we managed to
awesome.
do 2 of them together. And then, we thanked each other, said goodbye, and off he went, and off I went, and that was it. That was good fun. We don't do that in in retail anymore. So
That's great. And have you done any of the dungeons as well? Like, one of the things as well is, rolling for things you don't
yeah, no,
need.
sorry, I was sorry. Oh, I'm so excited. It's so good. No, I went in what's the one with Van Cleef, Dead Mines, in West,
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Dead Mines
Yeah.
in West 4. So I was thinking, okay, because you can technically go in there when you're level 17, and I thought, oh,
Yeah, you can solo it,
yeah,
but
I was thinking, oh, I can't, I'm not going to be the one dragging the group down, so I'll wait until I hit level 19 or something. So I'm actually pretty decent at it. So
You say solo, you can't solo that
you
shit
can't
at
solo it. So
17.
no, you
that,
can. I thought 70, so I was like,
oh,
okay,
not
you
Oh,
17,
can.
not
yeah.
17. Sorry.
Sorry.
No, no, you're right. So and then yeah, so I was thinking, oh yeah, I'll wait until I can I get up there, and I was just about to advertise that I would like, and it's hard to get as a DPS. It's hard to to get it because everybody's looking for a heal
Yeah.
and the tank. But 2 of my friends jumped on at the roughly the same time, so I was able to group up with them, and then we found 2 random DPSs out waiting at the meeting stone, and we grouped up and we jumped on there, and it. I actually recorded it. Did the because I was just playing around with the video capture of gameplay and stuff. So I actually recorded
Okay.
on the gameplay. We died a lot. It was painful, but it was fun at the same time. Because I haven't done a dungeon in Classic for years, and so it was just great fun. That people were not just frustrated and running off and wanting to form another group or whatever. It was just some of these people have never played those dungeons, so it was just okay, back to basics, teaching them how it works.
Had to pull the mobs,
Pull-
not run
yeah,
everywhere.
exactly. It's like, do a bit of CC, do this and that, and
Yeah.
we plowed through it. It took us a bit longer than expected, but we had great fun, and we all learned something out of it, and we got to the end, and it was fun. So looking forward to more of that. So yes, I'm just loving it. It's ridiculous how much I loved it.
That's great. I mean, that definitely that pulls on my feels right now. As in, should I go back into it? And I'm not quite ready just yet because I've got a lot of other games that I'm playing and want to get through. But it's tempting. It's
It is.
really tempting.
It is. And but the thing is, if you're gonna do it, be prepared to be like in the old days, whereby you're gonna sink a lot of time into it, and it's
Yeah, that's my main concern, and that's one of the things that I wanted to check. Is it your understanding? Because the retail version now, I mean, if there is one advantage, is that you can, in some shape or form, be a casual player.
yes,
And get somewhere. I always found that, back, and again, we're talking, 12 years ago almost, when I was a no life World of Warcraft player that basically had no life other
yeah,
than play. I mean, that's what you had to do. The reality is, if you wanted to be in your guild, if you wanted to do some of the end game content, you had to spend so much time there because it is such a grind. And most of us now, we have commitments that mean we may not be able to spend 5-6 hours a day on that game after work and not sleeping.
Yes.
Is it as time intensive as it used to be? Or do you feel like you could potentially, go slowly through the game and, play a little bit more casually?
Well, one of the great things that I've found is that a lot of people nowadays, myself included, we understand Warcraft a lot better than we did back in those days. When Warcraft first came out, I mean, you didn't really know what you're doing. Most of the times you fumbled your way through it and you eventually got there in the end, and then it was great. So nowadays, most of us, as I said, well, some of us have been playing this game for years. We know how to do this things a lot more efficiently than we used to do back in those days. Saying that though, it still takes time to level. It still takes time to get your skills up, whether it's your professional skills, it's your weapon skills, it's whatever. It still takes the time. And if you want to be able to do, end game content, and I do believe you would still need to get into a guild.
Yeah.
You still need to put in the hours to be able to progress. So in that sense, I don't think that's going to change.
Yeah.
So as I said, and it's something I can't do anymore. As you said, we got commitments, we got lives, we got things we got to do these days, and we were not doing as often or as much as back in those days. So it's not something I'm going to get back into. I couldn't put that. I mean, like in vanilla, I was in a guild which had literally probably 800-900 people in it. We used to run Molten Core twice a week with two 40-man groups. I had my druid, I had my mage, and we would do it week in, week out. Would run twice, and then would jump into BWL, Blackwing Lair, and other stuff. But I couldn't do that anymore. So I'm playing it a lot more casually now. And at the moment, my friends and are also running at the same pace. So in that sense, I think
so that would be good.
I think we can do it as a casual thing. I don't know how well that would work, but we'll certainly give it a go. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, then if we have to give it up, we'll give it up. But we don't have the time to sink in that needed time to do the the hardcore stuff we used to do.
That seems to be the appeal, at least partially, to people, is the slow pace. Like, a lot of people have said that part of their positivity towards it is simply because it's slow, it's a bit more relaxing, they have to take their time and put effort in, like, even doing quests, because you have to group just to do some of the quests, because the elite mobs are too strong for, like, a single character.
Yeah, and I think that's probably one of the reasons I'm enjoying it a lot more. There's not that pressure of go. You got to get to a certain level for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we are getting ready for raids. The guild has to get up here to do this and that. No, there's none of that push.
And if there isn't that level of commitment, because I remember, the guild that I was in, we had to commit time to it. As in, if you were not available at least once to twice a week for some of these big raids, you were going to be kicked out eventually. I ended in a much more relaxed and chill guild with people that became amazing friends, where it was much more, trying to help each other and so on.
Yeah.
But certainly there were points where that was a real commitment. I always said I was lying to my boyfriend, I was lying to my friends, and I would tell my boyfriend that I was seeing my friend, and I would tell my friend that I was seeing my boyfriend, so that I could raid.
Yes.
Because at the time that was not, an acceptable activity to be doing so often, to be, on the computer. But it really required that commitment that I feel now I would love to...
You were cheating on both of them.
That's exactly right. With 40 different people.
I know.
And that's what I'd be looking forward to as well, is being able to enjoy the game without some of that need for commitment and pressure. Now, if anyone knows me, sadly, I put the pressure on myself. I'm the one that ends up spending 7 hours in a row on something because I decide that I want to get to somewhere. That's
Yeah.
something that I have to deal by myself.
Look, you don't understand. We can't go see the movie because I have to spend 3 hours spamming rank 3 lesser heal. You just have to accept this is who I am.
Well, this is a reality. So what are you doing today? I'm farming for 6 hours.
Well, this is the interesting point. Like, is this nostalgic feeling gonna extend to like people having to farm for like cloth and shit when it
Probably.
gets to the proper high level, or is it just like, oh yeah, we have our fun, we like get back the community spirit, but then we hopefully, presumably, Blizzard's like, okay, now you can go back to retail and keep making us that moolah.
I mean, people are already farming and grabbing things, and one of the things that I thought maybe we'd talk about was that layer hopping that people were talking about in terms of farming and being able to be better at farming from jumping from one layer to another layer of the game. So obviously, some people are trying to collect mats and so on.
So there was the race on the world race, race to get the first character to level 60 type thing. So a lot of the Twitch streamers were running the streams and all that stuff, trying to outdo each other and get to level 60 ahead of each other. So this mage was on Twitch stream, and he went, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 days or however long it took him to do it without sleep supposedly or whatever.
Oh gosh.
He pushed himself to it, but one of the things he was doing was layer hopping. So hopping from one shard to another, and he was just getting his friends to just to group up with them, and then would zone him into a different shard of the world. He would kill all the mobs there, and and group from that person, group to the other one, with somebody else, jump into their shard, and then kill the mobs. Therefore, he doesn't have to travel as much.
Yeah.
And yeah, he got the world first to level 60. He beat the old record, which was done back in classic days.
Yeah.
So he beat the record. He won. He got it, and the reason he got it was because he was jumping from layer to layer to try to kill the mobs quicker without having to
Yeah.
travel long distances. So in that case, yes, it is. It was definitely advantageous for him to use it, and it helped him get to that world first, beat others to the punch by using the game mechanic, which was not available in the original game. So some people are crying foul about it,
Yeah.
but Blizzard said, no, that's legitimate. There's no reason to ban him or anything like that. That counts.
Yeah, look, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, and he used something that you can do in the game. One of the things that I got incredibly frustrated with, and one of the other sort of fun facts as to why Delphine eventually left World of Warcraft is because I got what was it, a Nether Drake, and I did that quest that you have to do for 1 month, where
Yeah.
every day you can only go and grab the eggs and raise the dude. And you can do that only once a day. And it takes you pretty much a whole month of doing that every day to eventually get that flying mount.
Yeah.
And then literally 2 or 3 months later, everyone has one that they didn't earn. So I can see how some people would go like, this is cheating, but that's a different thing. I don't think that's cheating. But the worst thing about that is that if I could one day redo these quests, I would. Because I like the grind. But so I'm not against farming and spending. I was also an alchemist and No, I was looking for plants all the time. So I've definitely spent hours and hours looking for certain flowers,
Yes.
which is a little bit sad. But that's part of the game.
It is part of the game, and that's what I did. I spent my early hours this morning. I had to wake up early for a few things, and that's exactly what I did. As I was watching the Apple keynote address,
Oh yes,
partially for work, partially for just for
interest. Yeah.
I'm an Apple fan.
Propaganda purposes.
Exactly, I'm an Apple fanboy. So as I was watching that, and I was just grinding, I was just picking up herbs everywhere, just leveling my alchemy. So it's a no brainer. You don't have to put your mind towards it too hard, and it just
That whole sentence just sounds like hail corporate.
I know, right? No, I love the grind. I love doing those kind of things. So it doesn't bother me too much having to do those kind of things at all.
Just become a mage and be a water bitch for the entire expansion again.
You know what? That's exactly what I am, because I love playing mage, and then my friend who is a priest, and that's all she asks. Oh, can I have some water? Can I have some water? Can I have some water? It's like, oh, for crying out loud.
Hey, that's what priests do. That was my life.
Yeah, that's it.
And my life was DPS. If I'm not healing you, don't ask. My job is to heal the tank. I'm healing you when I can. If you're an idiot, it's not my fault.
Yes.
My job is to keep the tank alive, because once he's dead, you're dead too. So all the people, heals. Screw you. I'm doing my best.
Yeah, I played a hunter
looking
just like
forward
every.
to that. A hunter?
Yeah, like every aspiring noob in World of Warcraft, everyone starts a friggin' hunter because we get it pet.
Yes.
Exciting. Not until level 10, which for some reason felt like fucking forever when you first leveled it, but it'll probably be better now.
Yeah, and like for me, I struggled from level 1 to level 14. I don't know. I know mages are a bit of a pain to level sometimes, but from level 1 to 14, struggled through it. It was for some reason I just struggled.
Well, you got a wand.
Yes.
Because any
I was constantly
any magic class has to wand to live, basically.
Yes, I wasn't using it accurately enough, and I was running out of mana, and it was frustrating me, and I'm just constantly grinding out of mana, grinding through the whole process. But
yeah, well, you have to spec into wands to really level with any of the magic classes, because otherwise you'll like all the time,
yes, and
you just have to drink pretty much constantly.
And then when once I hit 14, I got all the proper spells I needed to get, and I was able to actually navigate through the mobs a lot better. And yeah, it's just been smooth sailing.
Do you have to read the quest text?
I was really bad at reading quest texts. The first time that I played, I had no idea what I was doing. That was the first.
I remember most of the quests, so I remember most of the quests, unfortunately, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But most of the times, I don't have to read it anymore.
Yeah, I struggled my whole way because I didn't know about dual spec. So I leveled up as a healer priest. So you can only imagine how great that was, like trying to go and kill things and so on, not on Shadow Priest.
Yeah.
And then eventually I literally did that until like level 40, until someone told me like, are you a fucking idiot? And I was like, what are you talking about?
Was Shadow Priest even really a thing at the time?
It was.
Okay.
Yeah. And I never died. The good thing is, when I was questing, I never died. But the mobs didn't
Nothing
either.
else ever died, but...
So it was like, this is great. I don't die, but neither do they. Killing one thing was taking me 10 minutes.
Yeah, I remember Shadow Priest only because Jeffrey, that's what he used to play, Shadow Priest, and that's what he's playing again now.
Shadow Priest was great. I mean, obviously it wasn't my specialty, so I didn't have a whole lot of gear. When I was rolling for something and when I wanted items, there were the healing items, so I was by no way whatsoever a good Shadow Priest, and in PvP I was getting owned so poorly. And the priests are the first one, you're the first one attacked. So even as a shadow priest, it was like my life in PvP was pretty awful and I never much enjoyed it. But as far as leveling when you were doing solo quests, Shadow Priest was great. By the time I found a group of friends and so on, I could actually play and level as a priest because whenever we were questing in groups and so on, then actually having heals was great.
Nice. Yeah, no, as I said, it's definitely worth a play, and
Damn it! I was kind of
I
hoping
will
you'd
I
be
will
like,
welcome you all to come join me.
Wait, what server are you playing on?
Oh, that's a good question.
Is it one of the full ones that we can't join anyways?
No, the one I joined isn't full. It is high population, but it's definitely not full. I'm trying to remember the name of it. Your Lamba, or
It's one of the oceanic ones,
it's
presumably.
it's one of the oceanic ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oceanic PvP.
There's only like 4 there, so like, pick your poison.
Yeah, let me find it actually. Oceanic.
Although you're Alliance, right?
Yeah, I play Alliance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I'm a horde person, dude.
yeah. The server's got
No,
them
no,
down, but
I'm an undead horde. That's the way it has to be. It has to reflect my actual mood in real life.
no, that's fair.
Yeah, you know.
No,
Late stage capitalism, depression, so we all have to be.
Exactly.
I can play Horde, but obviously I can't play it on the same server. It doesn't let you do it. Especially
Yeah,
on a
fair.
PvP server, you can't play both factions. You have to. Well, the old ones it doesn't let you. The new ones does. You know what I mean?
If you're an undead priest, I'm pretty sure had the best of the like. Because remember, a priest had like each race of priests had a unique ability as well. Like there was a specific spell for each.
Yeah, the only one I remember is the dwarf one because they had the Fear Ward. You mean
I think they all had Fear Ward, but I don't remember
not
what they
Fear
I
Ward.
had.
can't. I can't remember what it was, but I
racial ability,
do.
I'm trying to
I do
remember.
remember
Yeah.
that
I think-
I had been advised to pick that because
I think
someone
undead
had
had
asked
like
me what
touch
I
of
wanted.
death or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I don't remember that.
I'm trying to remember what the dwarf one had. They had a specific thing which was brilliant. That made him really, really hard to kill. Can't remember what it was. But yeah, no, it's as I said, I'm quite enjoying it, and Blizzard, despite their reluctance to take it on, they've done a great job with it. And I don't want, as I said, I want the authentic experience in the sense of that your gameplay, but not in the sense of having to get a CRT monitor type thing and go back to a 4:3 screen resolutions. I'm currently playing it in on a 4K monitor, and I run it at high resolution, and it's beautiful. It looks absolutely beautiful.
Well, yeah, I think they increased the view distance, didn't they?
Yeah, they increased the view distance. A few
Yeah.
things they've changed it. The game actually, although the character models are still the old ones.
Yeah, well, they weren't gonna exactly. I think people would have chucked a freaking fit if they had the new ones.
Yes.
Oh, and it was Desperate Prayer and Fear Ward. So you're right about Fear
Ah,
Ward.
what's the award? Oh yeah, that's
Yeah, and Desperate Prayer was the other one. That's the dwarf racial.
yes.
Okay.
And the Forsaken one is Touch of Weakness and Devouring Plague.
Haha. There you go. Yeah, no,
That's right. I remember fucking constantly because I did play a priest really briefly, because I really got tired of wanding, and I went back to my druid. But yeah,
Priest
I
was
a Forsaken,
pretty
obviously.
amazing, and it was the best way to find groups. So that was really, really easy. When I played, there were very few priests in these days. So, it was really easy to find groups and to find, you were always in demand. So that was quite good. So although, obviously, as I said, I did a lot of leveling by myself, a lot of the times, actually, I was leveling by doing dungeons because you were always asked to go and do it. So in terms of getting, the gear that you needed and so on, that was really great compared to DPS who, as you say, and still now is much, much harder to find groups as well.
Yes, definitely. As a tank, it's heaps easier to get groups. Obviously, everybody needs a tank and a healer.
Yeah.
But the DPS always struggle. But as I said, that's when it comes in handy, being in a guild or having friends you play with.
Yeah.
So once you can, if you've got a healer and a tank in there, just the rest makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm.
So what you're saying is we should all play WoW together
I think I'll
and
definitely.
stream it on Twitch.
Yes, yes. Even I'm not proficient enough to do Twitch streaming and things like that, but
Come on, it can't be that hard. Surely
no,
all these people on there are not geniuses.
yeah, no, I
Just
don't.
put on some Disturbed and you'll be fine.
Yeah, no, I don't. No, I think I could do it. I just don't have the inkling of having to, get an audience and keeping them and all that stuff. I couldn't do that. I don't have the time for that.
That's a really interesting thing. I'm just wondering, do people would be interested in seeing me play and swear and die because I suck?
No,
that makes for great entertainment. I'm
yeah,
sure.
I mean,
That's what all the kids like now, so
That's
you'll be
right.
fine.
yeah. If somebody else had a stream they were running and they wanted, some companions to run it with them, I'll
Well,
definitely do that.
Dan is on Twitch. DM is on Twitch, so
Is he?
yeah, I reckon so. I think I watched him play Sekiro, so
Better jump in there and have a look and see what he's got.
yeah.
So someone's gonna Twitch stream like Alterac Valley, the 3-day match, and probably die in the attempt of doing so.
Yes. Yeah, I can't wait for this for the new content to come through. Now, one of the things that Blizzard also said was, because when they said they were going to include the layering into the classic, people were not happy about it because they wanted that authentic experience. But I'm glad they did the layering, because otherwise it would have been really, really bad on the first day if they hadn't done that. And then but Blizzard promised they were going to take it off. I can't remember, was it after 2 weeks or so? Because it's now 2 weeks, so I'm not sure if they've taken that off yet or not. I didn't check into it.
They did say they were going to remove it, but not sure when.
Yeah, they definitely promised they'll take it off so that people on the same server can see everybody on the server. Which is...
It's during phase 1, at least that's what it's supposed to be.
Ah,
Whether it
okay.
actually lasts beyond the other stages of the game, I don't know. But
And it might be that they have to, continue to assess crowds and numbers, because the layering system, if I understand, what it's for, is to be able to have more people on the servers than what it should normally be, what it can normally accommodate. So
yeah, well, one of the things, because they don't want to physically build more servers, so this is just a way to do it, because it's essentially like sharding, sort of similar tech. It's on purpose because, they have to physically create more servers is going to be a problem. So,
And that's the other thing, of course. There's a high demand for Classic at the moment, but you don't know what the actual staying power is for a lot of people.
that's exactly right. They probably don't want to build servers if people
Exactly.
just are doing that for a few weeks and then just go, oh, well, that was cool. Thanks very much. Bye.
Yeah, correct. And so it's worth, from Blizzard's point of view, to see how things are in a month or 2 months or whatever. And then, if need be, they obviously not at the moment, like the first couple of weeks, I think that's the highest amount of people you're going to get. It's not likely to rise sharply for any reason, because there's no surprises. Everybody knows what's coming in the game. There's no expansions coming.
guess what the next expansion for WoW Classic is, boys and girls?
Exactly right. So they're at the highest peak they're going to get. Now it's just a matter of where is it going to plateau? Which people are going to stick around? Which ones are going to leave? And that will determine.
One of the things that this was kind of talked about in a different podcast that I also listened to about WoW. But anyway, they kind of talked about having multiple instances of the game running. So you'd have a version of Classic and then a version of BC and a version of Wrath. Or they can just go through the entire cycle of like expansions again, just like cycle it all again. Just have two simultaneous cycles running like 16 years apart or whatever.
That's the thing. I think that would be silly. Saying that though, the other side of the people have been talking about is what they're classifying or they're talking about as WoW Plus. WoW Classic Plus. Basically, what they're suggesting is that they do all the phases they planned, and then rather than then jumping onto BC expansion, actually creating new content
Okay.
on Classic, content that has nothing to do with the retail, doesn't interfere with the timeline of the retail version, but adding, because like when you look at the Blizzard code on the original Warcraft, the vanilla classic version, there's a lot of hidden zones that were supposed to be used for certain things. There's lots of assets that were supposed to be incorporated into the game, but they never did. Whether they ran out of time, they just didn't lead to anything. So, in theory, they could rejig those areas, do something with it, and add a new instance, add a new raid, add a new dungeon. So they could add content that was not in the original timeline.
I want to see janky versions of the new races that they later released. So like the WoW Classic version of a panda or a goblin or a worgen, just to see how shitty they look.
See, that's another way they could go, but
I mean, they looked pretty crap back then too. No pandas.
Fuck off, man. Pandas are great. Mr. Pandaria was awesome.
Was it though? And
Yes. Don't talk shit about pandas. They're endangered.
But I love real pandas. But yeah.
I think when we look at the expansions back then, the way they went through. I mean, Lich King was still my favorite expansion ever. I loved it.
It was good.
Yeah, but since then, Warlords of Draenor is the worst one I've ever seen, followed by BFA, which is the current expansion, which is really it's so shambolic. Actually, it has had ups and downs, but the downs are more than the ups. So it's definitely not a
Good job, the art team. Everything else sucks.
Yes, I agree. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with in the next expansion. But at the moment, Classic is where my head is at, and I'm quite enjoying that and I probably will enjoy it for the next few months, maybe even a year.
I think the way the game is going, presumably, realistically, if they decide to do BC and Wrath and all that, they'll probably run in like they'll coincide there. They're not gonna have like a release cycle. I don't think.
No, I don't think they will.
They'll just have them run simultaneously and people will play whatever, provided it's economically feasible.
Correct.
Because that's ultimately.
And that's the thing. I mean, they're a company. They gotta make money. They can't be doing things.
Yeah, of course.
Just for fan service.
For now, at least, you're not really like if you sub to the game, you're getting Classic for free, I guess. Or you're getting retail for free if you intentionally just want to play for Classic. Yeah, so. Yeah.
Well, they probably deserve it. I think the way you have talked about this seems very interesting, and my fingers are itching at going and checking whether it's time to reactivate a very old account.
Yeah, no, as I said, personally, I think it's worth it. Obviously, it's all personal opinions and all that stuff. I know one of my friends also, jumped into Classic, said, "Nah, this is crap. I'm not playing this." Went back to retail because he never played Classic. He has none of that nostalgia, none of that connection to that game. For him, he hates the mechanics, he hates things, but he likes the simpler way of things that are happening in the retail, and that's all good.
I mean, you say simple, but in some ways it's not actually simple.
I say simple only because as I said, number one, I've been
Streamlined, let's say.
Yes, it is very much streamlined.
Yeah,
It's very,
because I wouldn't call it simple. It's just that there's a lot of things that have been created over a period of long changes to the game to make it more palatable as over time. It's just some of them weren't necessarily like people always assume. I think there's this sort of idea that Blizzard has like a master plan when they really don't. Like they just react to what happens and they make changes and then a new expansion comes.
Yeah.
Because they spend time and resources and then that stuff goes live and some of it may be bad or is a mistake and they have to go back on it. And it's this constant cycle. And that's the pendulum swing of like WoW in general. Things swing really quite a lot from one expansion to another.
yes.
So in some ways, Classic is almost like, hey, remember when it was like simple and like at least mechanically, it's not like the game is that complex. I mean, they've like some stuff that I think for some people it'd be a shock in terms of like things like spell ranking and having to level your weapons for some unknown reason. Not having quest like markers, which means you have to actually read the quest text, which is generally vague anyway. So if you don't remember or don't know, have fun trying to figure out in one sentence where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to kill.
Yes.
Having to group for even questing content, having to actually talk to people, like having to grind for. I mean, this isn't even peak grind time because this is after they've released more quests.
Correct.
So
This is a good thing about the Classic, and I suppose not a lot of people used to. There were back in those days. There were mods and add-ons that you could get, but they were not.
I had them because otherwise it was really difficult to know where the hell to go
Yes.
to find items and so on.
Yeah, and that's the thing with the experience of all the later expansions and all that stuff. The add-ons which are now come on with for Classic, they're a lot better, a lot more informative, and a lot more finely tuned, if you will. So they actually the add-ons are actually helpful, and they actually make the gameplay a lot easier than it used to be. So like
though I still maintain spell ranks suck.
spell rank still suck. I agree with you.
That's a shit mechanic.
Yeah.
It was shit back then, it's still is shit.
Yeah, I found myself using rank 2 Fireball and wondering why the mobs were not dying as quickly, and then I realized, oh shoot, I got rank 3 in there. I just didn't even use it. I forgot about it. I didn't put it on my action bar, so
Rookie mistake.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, the thing that I think they probably discovered a little bit over time is like, because they pruned a lot of the old abilities, right? Like I'm pretty sure even Classic had more overall abilities per class, right? Than current retail?
Yes.
Yeah. But I think there's something to be said about all those useless abilities. Because even if you never used them for any practical reason, particularly some of the fun ones that just let you do stupid shit. Like mind control or all those sort of weird ones that you could just play around with and discover there's dumb uses in the game. Like there's something to be said about all those fun abilities.
Yeah, I think so.
That's missing.
And that's part of enjoying the game without just looking at almost the competitive aspect that I think seems to be happening in the later versions where it doesn't matter, the leveling doesn't matter as much. You want to get to the highest level to be with other people and do the things that they're doing. Whether
that's the
back then there
roleplay
were
aspect.
people at all times of the games where you wanted to enjoy it and discover the game as well, and some of these abilities and some of the stupid emoticons and dances, and I mean some of my best times have been literally just going to dance on a pier with the whole guild because that was fun. I doubt that people are doing that a whole lot anymore.
Well, it's the community, and I think with the abilities in particular and like the mechanics stuff, it's the feeling that you're an actual class.
Yeah.
Because all those dumb fun abilities is the thing that makes it feel unique.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas the streamlining that they've kind of done over the period of time, it's mechanically, I guess, more useful because it means you can filter the player base to do what you want and become more competent players.
Yeah.
but it comes at the expense of, oh, hey, the classes don't really feel that unique anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's why people complain about homogenization.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's the thing with again with Warcraft retail these days. It's every class has got although unique abilities, but those abilities tend to do similar things. So it makes your class less special. And whereby the original game in Classic, the classes are very different, and they feel different, and they and that makes the gameplay more interesting, for sure. But as I said, some people don't like it, but I love it. I love the differences there.
How's the talent trees in comparison to, because that's the one, does it feel better to have an actual tree than it does to have just like a select ability once every 15 levels?
Actually, I completely forgot about the skill tree. Like, I was leveling, because you start getting your skills at level 10. And
Talents.
Talents, is what I meant, yeah. You start getting your talents at level 10, so you can start allocating them in different places. And it wasn't until level 15 I realized, oh, shoot, I need to be allocating my stuff. Like a new...
Which isn't bad necessarily, because then you get like, ooh, I get 5 to pick.
5 to use, yes. So like
Don't fuck it up now.
Yes, and just even grind the money to do anything in the game is so hard. Like I've been I've been fluctuating with 1 or 2 gold.
Whoa, rich man.
I know, right? I make the gold. I make my coin. I get the silver and whatever, and then I have to go buy my spells and other stuff at every other level. I have to go buy my spells. I gotta buy this, and then I'm poor again. I got nothing. But I'm finally building it up. I think I'm up to 2 gold, whatever now. And
well, you know what you have to do, don't you? You gotta farm that twink gear, man, and sell it. That's how you get rich in Classic WoW.
Yes, that's what I'm gonna do. If we get time, we'll certainly be doing that. And because I gotta level my stuff, my alchemy and all that stuff. Oh my god, I'm looking forward to it. It's so good. So I hate doing it, but I love doing it. It's one of those love-hate relations. Yeah.
Well, that sounds amazing. Look, the World of Warcraft, that's a 15-year-old game, so I'm sure we could talk about it for another 2 or 3 hours. So do you think we can stop it here? And if in the next few weeks we decide that there's a lot more content, maybe we'll do a follow-up?
Yeah, I'd love to, because I'll actually probably sub finally. And have,
if you
have
do,
more, like,
if you do, I'll
direct
have to. Maybe that has to be the plan.
Yes.
Yeah,
that'd be good.
I'm happy to.
That'd be good. If you guys join me up there and we can run around, we'll see how it is, and then we can
join you in paradise.
In paradise, yes.
That sounds like a good plan. Guys, thank you so much for your knowledge and insights and for spending the time with me tonight.
Thank you, and ciao, everybody.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Talk to you guys later.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of the S.O.A.P. We hope you enjoyed the episode. And as always, we would love to hear from you. Please like us, follow us, subscribe, leave us some comments, give us some feedback about this episode or other things that you would like us to talk about. We are on all social media channels, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Reddit, and all our episodes are on SoundCloud and through all your podcast channels. That is it for us today, and we will see you later. Bye.
Bye.
You have been listening to the S.O.A.P podcast. Join us again soon for another episode, and don't forget to hit us up on all the social media platforms, because we love hearing from you.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.